creating lasting building projects for children's interest to come to life through an inquiry-based curriculum in the early childhood care and educational setting. Roscommon County Childcare Committee, in collaboration with Longford County Childcare Committee, are delighted to bring you this podcast where we will talk about how are we being intentional leaders, how are we bringing projects to life in early childhood care and educational settings, and are we allowing and developing the exploration for all children in our care?
The last principle I want to talk about, and someone asked me about this with the emerging curriculum, is projects. How are we creating lasting projects for children's interest to come to life? That building project came about very organically because every day when the children came to the drive to the school, they had to pass by the diggers and the trucks, and they were talking about this. And the teachers noticed this, so they involved them in the conversation. We went down there often. In the end, they had a cupola. Do you know what that is? Like the barn top of the building put up. Someone donated it to the school. The maintenance people invited the children into the barn to paint it white. But they had to have a crane come that would lift it and place it on the top of this big building. The crane came at 6:30 in the morning, and the maintenance crew was on from 6 to 2. And he said, I don't care where you go to breakfast down the street. He said, but you're not putting that up until all the children are here. He would not let them put it up. And he came around like a little child himself, this almost retirement age gentleman saying, the cupola is going up today. And all the children were there. They cheered as this went up on the top of the building. You know, it was the highlight of a project. It was also the highlight of a relationship with different people. How are we bringing things to life? And how are we being intentional? We tried to be very intentional with the projects that we would be developing in our classrooms, related to both the needs of the children and the interests of the children. How are you balancing that? That year with the children, the 13 boys and 1 girl, the intent of the teachers was to create an environment that respected each child. So they really focused on social democracy and justice. How do we all live with each other and get along? Well, the first interest that emerged from the children was Africa. The mother coming in the African safari. The kids were so interested in African animals. They were all over the room. They were talking about them. They dug deep into African language, stories, music. So at our staff meeting, they're like, well, we have this project, but we have this intent. Were they opposite each other? No, they were just different. What did they have to do was find a way to link it together. So through a little research in their teacher's researcher hat, they discovered Raffi, you know Raffi's music. He has a song called Tunza on one of his CDs, Resisto Dancing, I think. And Tunza is Swahili for kindness. So they wanted to bring in a kindness curriculum, a social democracy, so they used the language of Africa, and they created this whole project around Tunza, which brought in literature, music, art, kids exploring language. And what we also noticed, because we were in the researcher mode, is 4-year-olds are frightened and they're concerned and questioning power all the time. That's why the superheroes and the dinosaurs. What they noticed with the African animals is kids were roaring at each other. And they were protecting themselves from each other by roaring, was creating this safety boundary. But it was also not very kind sometimes. But they looked at the work of Vivian Gussie Paley. Does anyone know her? She has some beautiful books on child development, and there's a whole chapter in one of her books on roaring. When you go beneath the surface, when you start researching, when you start thinking about this, the webs that are created through this work become clearer and they become tighter. Somebody might come in and say, oh my God, I keep thinking that this is Piaget's stage of development X. That's why they're struggling with this. Oh, you know, everyone's going to put a different piece of the puzzle together when you're in that researcher mode. And that was the most fabulous experience for me as a leader. So I'll close this bit with a quote from Loris Malaguzzi. What children learn does not follow as an automatic result from what is taught. Rather, it is in large part due to the child's own doing as a consequence of their activities and our resources. How are we creating space for children's own doing? What are the resources? What are the materials? What do we have out that allows children to explore and develop and create? Mary Oliver has done a lot of beautiful writing on education, and this is another one of those wristbands I'd like to develop. Instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. When in work with young children could we do this? Every single day, every morning, every afternoon, every evening. What are we telling that child, parent of that very difficult child? Beautiful stories of the moment of success, the wonderful thing that happened each day. How did I give that father his son back? By telling the stories of success. Did the child still have actually lifelong issues? You bet. Was he able to achieve and accomplish and grow in a loving family? You bet. It's not about the challenges, it's about the stories that we're telling and how we're connecting this.